What is good, Spuds? This is your main man, Jesse White here, of the Needless Potatoes podcast. And, thanks for joining me on this beautiful Friday, wherever you are. Hopefully, you're out there enjoying your weekend. Hopefully, you're out there staying safe, practicing social distancing, washing your hands, wearing a mask, following all the requirements of the CDC. We'll get through this together. Shout outs to all of you. Shout outs to all the essential workers out there. Thank you so much for doing all that you do. And thank you so much for sitting down with me and listening to this very special episode of the Needless Potatoes podcast. My guest today is a very good friend of mine. He's a great guy. He is the silver-tongued devil himself, Craig Meinhart. Everybody, Craig Meinhart. Round of applause. Craig is great. Craig is the vocalist to Silver Tongue Devil, which is a heavy metal band out of Dallas, Texas. And we sit down and we talk about his band, the origins, how everybody met, inspirations, shows, gigs, all the great stuff. We also talk about why you shouldn't try to grab his scepter at a show because you might get your eye poked out. But I'll let him tell you that story. And and stick around for at the end of the episode because we have a very special song for you by his band, Silver Tongue Devil. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. You have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Hello, everybody, Spuds and Spuds alike. This is Jesse White here of the Needless Potatoes podcast. I am joined today by Mr. Silver Tongue Devil himself, Craig Meinhart. There's also my cat. Say something to Cat.
What's up, Cat?
Her name is Flea.
Flea?
Yeah, Flea.
That's not a very good wrestler name.
Right. Well, I don't know.
Do you have a luchador mask for Flea?
I don't. She's in heel mode all the time. She
Okay.
Yeah, she thought it was a great idea the other week to pee on my bed right by my head, and then yesterday she walked over and peed on my leg. So a lot of has a peeing fetish or something.
Well, like you said, she's in heel mode, and
Well,
she's putting the heat to you.
yeah, she no sells that I rescued her, and she just pees on my stuff. So there's that. Anyways, so you're in a band. You're in allegedly you're in the mighty Silver Tongue Devil, allegedly.
Indeed.
And can you give us a little bit of intro on that?
Let me see. We started in spring of 2005. It was me and guitar player Alex Speed initially. We met over a Musicians Wanted ad in a defunct kind of a local music trader around here called what was it? Harder Beat. That was it. In the back, they would have like want ads that you could post looking for musicians. So that's how Alex and I met back in spring of 05. We've been going strong ever since. Had a couple of lineup changes. Most recent lineup that we have right now is real solid. Pardon me. And we just put out our fourth album back in the fall, back in October. So album number 4 is called Pax Satanica, and it's a mix of Silver Tongue Devil and our acoustic side project, Acoustic Devil. So Acoustic Devil is the same guys. It's me and Alex and our other guitar player, John. They're just on acoustic instruments, and it's just me on the mic. And we're shredding out the songs the same way we normally would, just on acoustic instruments. So we try to get out and play as often as we can with both projects, but STD is the main band. That's the main thing that we do.
Okay, and your first album that you spoke of, the first EP, is Secret Demons. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, now was that an official album, or was that like a collection of your old stuff or stuff you had already recorded?
It's our first album, but what it actually is, it's a collection of our first 2 EPs. So our very first EP which had 3 songs on it. Was called Demon. It was demo with the N apostrophized. So, and then a year later, we came out with another EP that was 4 songs, and that was called The Obscene Secret. And we never had like a big official release for either of them. We were just out playing shows and like handing them out to people and like burned copies and stuff like that, as you do. But as we kept going, we put them together and released it as our first official album called Secret Demons. And so it's actually our first 2 demos put together.
I gotcha. So your first 2 demos slapped together to make one official album.
Yep.
Now, what like the name Silver Tongue Devil or Acoustic Devil? Where does that come from?
Silver Tongue Devil is it's actually an actual old phrase. Like it goes back to Shakespeare and beyond. It just means a very smooth talker. It's literally, like to say someone has a silver tongue, it means like an exceptional liar, basically. And we were just back in the day looking for good band names, and band names are atrociously difficult to come up with. It's really, really tough just because everything's been used. And, had a list of paper and wrote down like 15 or 20 names and was trying to think of a good one. And Silver Tongue Devil was one that stuck. And so we just kind of adopted it over time. And it wasn't until someone else pointed it out to us that the abbreviation for Silver Tongue Devil is STD. And so we just kind of ran with that as well. So now, more and more people know us as STD, and it's a pun that we have different songs like Sexually Transmitted Devil and stuff like that. So we've kind of embraced it, but that was accidental. And Silver Tongue Devil, it was just a cool phrase that we hadn't seen used before, especially with no metal bands, did the whole Google search and stuff like that. And we were the first one to do it, so we just kind of stuck with it. And Acoustic Devil, we were trying to think of, like a clever wordplay, and just Acoustic Devil stuck. So we just kind of went with that. I mean, it's all the same guys, the same band and stuff like that. It's just a way to let people know if it's the full band or if it's the acoustic band.
I gotcha. But either way, they're getting some badass metal. They're getting songs about what was it? Elephants tearing people apart, or the devil, or the occult, all the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, try to have a wide range of topics lyrically. I mean, it's everything from fantastical fictional stories to true crime, real life, to occult topics and things like that, to ancient history. So try not to have just one thing. Try to jump around a little bit. The way I look at it is, writing songs, it's real similar to a collection of short stories. So if you have a collection of short stories by like Stephen King or Clive Barker or H.P. Lovecraft or somebody like that, it's one big book, but all of the stories will be vastly different. You might have a story about a serial killer or a killer car or a haunted hotel or different things, and that's just the way we kind of approach songwriting is that it's not one thing. We try to hop around, but it's got a consistent theme.
I gotcha. It has to deal with some sort of element that you're interested in, whether it's the occult or, like you said, a fictional story or like true crime. I think
Right.
I think we yeah well I think that we share that interest in true crime. I'm very much a fan of true crime, of murder mystery. Uh, yeah, so I mean I dig you there. I always had kind of a fat true crime to me is a lot more scary because it's in real life.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and like ghosts and demons and well, that may be real, maybe not, but like Frankenstein stuff like that, it's fictional, but there might be your next door neighbor might actually be out there hacking people to death or not. Who knows?
Yeah.
Don't
Well,
trust your neighbor.
we just try to view it like through a lens of history, and if you go back historically, there's lots of stories of murder, rape, and mayhem, and lots of fodder for interesting topics. So like one of our more notorious songs, right, is "Your Mother Sucks Cocks in Hell," and the title is, for those paying attention, obviously taken from The Exorcist. That's
Mm-hmm.
what the possessed little girl says at one point. But the story itself is actually taken from the Inquisition, the witch burnings over in Europe, where a woman that was interviewed much later claimed to have been a witch that was burned during the Spanish Inquisition, and she would talk about the feelings of being burned alive at the stake and how she could feel the fire like burn at her feet and then catch her hair on fire and all this kind of stuff. And as she was dying, she threw a curse out at the people that were watching, the townspeople. I just thought that was a really interesting subject, so I kind of just combined the two, where the lyrics of the song are a curse of someone that is being persecuted, and they're throwing that curse back out at the people that are persecuting them. And I just try to do that, kind of mixing different things. It's not just a story about The Exorcist. That's really just the title. It's
Mm-hmm.
more of like a reflection of what happened during the witch trials over in Europe. A totally different song for us would be something like "Suicide with Occam's Razor," and that would be more influenced by artificial intelligence and what can happen with the extermination of mankind through artificial intelligence. So we're really, like I said, we're a little bit all over the place, but that's by design. Don't want it to be just one thing. Don't want it to be like just gore or just horror movies or just serial killers and stuff. But all of those things influence the songs in some way or another.
I gotcha. So, sounds like well, obviously there's a lot of substance because I think that the compliment that I pay you is that you're a very well read, intelligent guy, and the fact that you're from Stillwater is even more even more surprising because
I know,
I've been to
right?
Stillwater, and
I as have I. It was it was a party of one for me in Stillwater. There weren't a lot of metal punks into horror when I was going to school there. I was like the
right.
only kid around, wearing a Misfits or a Slayer shirt, on campus. And it's like no one else was reading Clive Barker's Books of Blood, when I was going to school and stuff like that. So I was very much a misfit in the world of Stillwater, Oklahoma, uh,
I got
which
you.
is no doubt why I left. But it's all good. It definitely you got to develop a pretty stiff spine. Being the only weirdo in your class, or one of a few anyway. Not that I was the only one, but it's just weren't a lot of other kids to talk about that kind of stuff. When I was going to school there, and it's just over time. It's like a lot of people will like stuff for a short period of time. They're like, oh, I went through a phase where I thought serial killers were interesting, or I really liked horror movies when I was a teenager. It's like, well, I just always have liked it. It's like I've never not enjoyed that kind of stuff, so I still dig it now. So
Well,
that's why
well,
that's why I write songs about that kind of stuff.
oh, I got you. Well, real quick before we get off Stillwater, definitely shout outs to Isaac McClung and Sam Valier, the two only good things about Stillwater besides yourself. So,
So, and what are they?
well, Isaac McClung is a folk and acoustic artist. I actually had him on last week, and
Okay.
Sam Valier is he was the vocalist to Sweeper, which was like a rock band out
Oh,
of
okay.
Stillwater. Yeah,
I remember hearing about them.
yeah, so they're both awesome guys, uh, making Stillwater proud. But anyways, other than
There
that,
you go.
the rest of it is black.
Yeah.
but
Well,
but
I've definitely not done anything to make Stillwater proud.
well, there you go. But I think you're in heel mode over there.
Yes.
but no, like I think I had a similar upbringing. I was very, I went to the Van Nuys, Oklahoma was the high school. And in addition to being a weirdo and listening to Slayer and Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie and Cannibal Corpse and all those wonderful, wonderful bands, I also was one of like 15 brown people, and
Right.
so that was fun. So it was all good.
Yeah.
Whatever. But kind of transitioning, how long have you guys been together? You said that you've been together since 2005. Um, you and Alex are the two founding members, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was me and Alex started it. Back then we had a different lineup behind us. Me and Alex have been the consistent, element, through any lineup changes and stuff like that we've had. The next longest member that we've had is our other guitar player, John
Mm-hmm.
Tapia. He actually started on bass with us, and he's a tremendous bass player. But guitar is kind of his main passion, and so it took us a while. But whenever we were able to find a full-time bassist that could step in, so he could move to second guitar, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that the three of us are the nucleus. You got me and Alex and John, the primary, songwriters, primary nucleus of the band, the three guys that have been there the longest. And then our two newest members are Brandon Chandler from another local thrash band called Exploder, who's kind of on hiatus right now, and that's why he's playing with us. And then we have Josh Licht, who's helping us out on drums. And Josh is a buddy that has another band called Run the Asylum, but we've known him for several years, and he's been coming out to shows to check us out and stuff like that for a long time. And then when we had an opening, he was very gracious in stepping in and helping us out.
Awesome, very cool. Well, and Exploder is a excellent, excellent band. I haven't
Yeah,
heard.
we were good friends with those guys for a long time, and
Mhm.
was sorry to hear them go away. But he's a phenomenal bassist, and when we found out that he didn't really have anything going on, we were quick to ask him, and he was quick to say yes. So
Mhm.
we've been lucky to have him play with us.
Oh yeah, very cool. No, I've seen the current incarnation of STD before all of this COVID-19 stuff. You guys, I think, played, was it the end of last year or was it the beginning of this year? The last time
We're
it came down.
I think the last time that you saw us was the end of last of 2019.
Okay, because it was in didn't get didn't gets destroyed. It was at Rubber Gloves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I believe that was like December 2019, like November, December, something like that.
Okay, well, either way, you guys were excellent, and
Thank you.
I always what yeah, no, for sure. Well, one thing I'll say is that you guys are a very interesting and exciting live show. There's a lot of energy that goes into it. You have Alex with his his kicks and his creepy smiles and his all the faces he makes, and then I think that I one thing that I appreciate is that you always give a monologue, and sometimes it doesn't has nothing to do with the song, and you
Yeah,
just will give us random facts. Yeah, and then what the thing that's behind you, your trident that you bring on stage.
right. Yeah,
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 is I know. Well, I know that we did a show, and you guys did a show in Oklahoma City, and some guy tried to grab it from you, and he almost got a trident in the eye.
yeah, yeah. Drunk guy got a little too handsy, and he decided he wanted to try to grab it away from me. So I gave him a warning, and then when he did it again, I basically like came within an inch of putting his eye out, and then after that, like some of his friends kind of pulled him away from the stage.
Well, always a good time at the Blue Note.
That's right.
But
Yeah, yeah.
but how many people have tried that? Have tried to
Oh,
like run on stage or?
Not really. I mean, he was one of the only ones to try to like take it away from me. Mainly, people are really cool and they just want to like take a picture with it after our set. You know, people are like, "Hey, can I hold the staff?" And it's like, "Sure." Um, that's the main
Mm-hmm.
thing. He was just drunk out of his mind. You know,
Right.
most people are real respectful and nice about it and stuff like that. So I haven't had, aside from him, I can't really think of anybody that just tried to like yank it out of my hands or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because it's a weapon, like it's got some heft to it. So
Yeah.
if I wanted to bash someone in the face with it, it would definitely leave a mark. And that guy came as close as anybody has.
Well, it would leave more than a mark. I feel like it would leave a gaping hole in the
Yeah,
side of
yeah.
his face.
Yeah, well,
No, but
the base of it, the bottom end is pretty thick and sturdy, and that's the part you could whack someone with and smash their face in. And then the top part, the pointy part, is that's where you could harpoon them with. So, what I was doing with that guy is that I was, I basically used it as like a staff and like threatened to like just punch him right in the face with the blunt end of it. And he didn't really get the hint, but his friends did, and they kind of pulled him back.
right. Is that and before that, because John would do this thing where he would go into the crowd because he has a wireless setup, and of
Yeah.
course he'd go into the crowd, and I think that guy was trying to like bear hug him or something, or
Yeah. It was like I said, the guy was just a drunken mess. But John will often go out and play to the crowd. And there was one part where the guy came up behind him, and at first, John and us on stage, we thought, oh, he's like putting his arm around him or something like that, because people will do that. It's like they might want to get like a selfie or just like hang on him while he's shredding or whatever. But this guy wasn't doing that. He was like putting him in like a bear hold while John's trying to play, and it's like fucking him up. So John had to like elbow him in the chest to get him away, and then he comes on stage, and it was right after that he comes up and he tried to grab the staff away from me. So like I said,
mm.
it luckily it didn't get worse than it did. Uh, but he was very close to having a real bad night.
Well, let that be a lesson to everybody out there. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah,
Keep your
well,
hands to yourself.
it's not a good idea to fuck with people when they have weapons on stage. I'll just say that. It's like, it's do it, at your own peril.
Right. But kind of getting back to the live show, how important is it to you to have a good live show, in addition to be on par with the music?
Right. Everything for us, like that was something that we would like sit and talk about, from the very beginning. Like me and Alex and everybody that we've played with has been on board, and that's a big part of the band. Is that it's not good enough just to stand there and play. It is. Nobody cares what you do. Have your own personality, do your thing, but do something. And we've been lucky in that. It's like Alex has got this great on stage persona. John's the same way. John's an amazing player, but he's also got amazing presence. Brandon, our bass player, he was a bass player and singer for Exploder. Same thing. He's got great presence. He knows how to work a crowd. And even our drummer, it's like the drummers into it. It's like they're headbanging, they're pointing at the audience, they're adding some flair to what they're doing. And we just always try to put on a show, even if it's a basement show or a house party. To us, it's no different than if you're playing a big stage, something like Trees here or Gas Monkey or something like that. It's a show. Is people aren't showing up to watch practice. Is we're there to entertain people as good as we can. And so for us, that just means going hard all the time. So
Hmm.
that's just super duper important. I mean, it's every bit as important to us as the songwriting, and we take the songwriting really really seriously as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that we had spoke on it earlier, but your mother's in hell. That's kind of the go home song for you. And I think the monologue that you give is for all of you that couldn't make it tonight. The song goes out to you, and then of course you'll go into it.
Right. Yeah. There's a few things that that
So
one that song, typically that's always our closer. We've tried to do different songs, and like maybe not play your mother, because it's sometimes hard, when you play a bunch of shows and stuff like that. You're like, well, are people tired of hearing it? Do people not want to hear it? But if we've ever like not played it in a set because of time constraints, or maybe we tried to change it up or something, people feel gypped. They're like, oh man, you didn't play Your Mother Sucks Cocks in Hell. So it's like, okay, cool. So it's like we know we have to keep it in there, and we know that it fits well as a closer. And uh, um, as far as like intros to songs and stuff like that, I just try to it's a balance, because you don't want to talk so much that people get bored, which I've definitely seen. You can fucking drone on too long, and people are like, checking their phones or going to the bathroom or tuning out or whatever. But you don't want to not say anything, or at least I don't think so. Is tell people what the fuck the song's about, or tell a funny story, or tell something interesting, or whatever. So I'll try to either intro the song and be like, hey, this is what the song is inspired by, or this is what it's about. Or sometimes, like you said, is I'll give a fake out, where if we're taking like a little bit of a longer break, I might go into a more elongated story, typically something from history. And then at the end, I'll be like, okay, so you might be wondering how this ties into the next song. And then the punchline is, it doesn't. Here's X or whatever. But,
yeah.
just, just little ways to try to keep it fresh and interesting, and do stuff that we don't see other bands doing. That's really kind of the whole point of that. We could, just because it's real important to me and to all of us, that we just have our own identity. I mean, we're recognizably, obviously metal, and proud of that. But aside from that, really the main goal is just to sound like nobody else but ourselves.
Hmm. Well, yeah, and I definitely appreciate that those little monologues, before the songs, whether it has everything to do with the song or it has nothing to do. It's
Yeah.
always something different. I'll say that the first time that I had seen you guys was for your second album that you released in 2012. I don't have it right at the top of my head. I wrote
No
notes
worries.
down. That's how.
Pornographic scripture.
Yeah, there it is, pornographic scripture. So and that was the first time that the band that we won't talk about played with you guys, and
The band with no name.
uh, yeah, the band with no name, um, and they played with you guys, and then and that was the very first time that I actually got to see you guys, and one takeaway was just the energy and stage presence. And then I also remember X from that night. You go into the monologue, and then you say, it's very simple. All you have to say is one word, X, and then I think you said something along the lines of, uh, okay, everyone's got it, and then people just. I think there was half people that said yeah, and then the other half just kind of blankly stared. So you know,
Right.
but
Sometimes you do get those, just kind of the people that are just like trying to take it in and figure out what the fuck is going on. I take that as a compliment too. Especially when you get out and play new places or areas for the first time, or you're playing in front of people that don't know you, or know us. Is will come across real strong, and some people really like that, which is great, and some people don't, which is also great. And then some people are just kind of confused, and it kind of takes them a little while to think about. A really good backhanded compliment I got from a good buddy of mine. He's in another band. So Ernie, he's the singer bass player for Chemicost, which is a great thrash band down here. But we've played a bunch of shows with those guys. We consider them real good friends. But he came up to me while we were setting up for a show a couple of months ago, and he's like, he's like, at first I didn't get you guys. He's like, I think you're great now, but it took me a while to kind of get what you were doing, and that is a pretty common response because by design is we're not exactly a thrash band, even though we have a lot of thrash elements. And we're not
Mhm.
exactly a death metal band, even though we've got a strong influence of death metal. And we're not exactly a punk band, but we've got a little bit of a punk energy to it. So, we're not like any particular one scene, but we'll play with all of those scenes. We love all those types of bands and stuff like that. But just our energy and our vibe and stuff like that is just this kind of weird mix of different things. And, it can sometimes take a couple of listens for people to get it and then be like, oh, okay, yeah, I dig that. Which is
Mhm.
cool. I took that as a high compliment. But that is a pretty common response to us. Another common response is people that'll be like, I don't normally listen to like super extreme music, but I enjoyed your set. Now, I don't
Mhm.
know if that just means like the live performance or the music itself or what. It might be all the above or none of the above. But that's another one where it's like people will be like, I'm not necessarily into like super heavy like death metal or black metal or whatever, but I thought you guys were entertaining. So, we get
Right.
both of those responses quite a bit.
That's one thing that the band we won't talk about, they get the same thing too. I think that
Yeah,
I think that you guys very similar in that that band will plug directly into any scene, and the same thing with you guys. And I think that I think what those people are getting at, that said they're not usually into heavy music, they're not usually into whatever, but they like you guys, or they enjoyed your set. I think that is a little bit of something for everybody, because as a fan of thrash metal and death metal, I can see those elements, especially in like the guitar playing, some of the songwriting. Of course, there's not a whole lot of like death growls or anything like that, but I appreciate the artistry of it. You know what I mean? I appreciate it, that everything, how it flows and strung together, and I think that people can appreciate that as well. So much that they're able to come up and give you those compliments.
yeah.
Um, what is like, so kind of going back to songs and stuff? Is your mother sucks cocks in hell? Is that the one song that people say, "Hey, play that song," or is there another one?
Uh, Probably the one that gets the most requests would be X. That would probably
Okay.
be like our most known song. You know, uh, there's a small group of songs that people reliably ask us to play. So there would be like Your Mother Sucks Cocks in Hell, X, Chopped Up by a Witch, um, and let me think. Probably on top of that, probably the next one would be like The Conquering Throne, which is one off of our first album. So, those four, most of the time, we always do try to change up our sets so people aren't just seeing the same songs all the time. But those four are
Mhm.
typically in our sets most of the time.
Okay, and those are, and you alluded to, you had said earlier that if you don't play Your Mother Sucks Cocks in Hell, people say, "Hey, like,
Yeah,
what the hell?"
yeah,
We
yeah.
we paid our
They're like,
good
hey
money.
man, yeah. What's going on? Play the song. So it's like, all right. I mean, I get it. It's like, it's just sometimes you need that affirmation because you don't want to like, you know, make people listen to it. They're like, dude, I saw you play that song the last 6 times I saw you. But that's not the response. Is typically it's like if you don't play it on the eighth time, people are like, what the fuck? Where's the song? So that's how
Yeah.
people know our set is over. So uh,
Well, I
so
mean,
yeah,
I well, it's one of those songs that it definitely has its place, because once you hear that song, uh, everyone usually gets up, they get into it, and you have your monologue, you hit that, everyone's like, yeah, and then you play the song, and then I think that kind of brings the energy back, maybe to some of the people that have been moshing all night, or some people that have been moving around all night, and they get back up, and they kind of end it on a good note. Kind of speaking of following that, and we had talked about Rubber Gloves earlier. What are some of the your more favorite venues in Texas, Oklahoma, or just wherever?
Um, and well, for your neck of the woods, the Railhead in Lawton is a
Mhm.
favorite. We love K in at the Railhead. Blue Note OKC has always treated us very well, and we were sad to see Sessions go in Ada. We had a good time playing at Sessions. And we do go play Tulsa, but there's not like one consistent place that we play in Tulsa. So
Mhm.
I can't say just like, oh, there's one venue that we play all the time or anything like that. As far as like down here in like the DFW area, Rubber Gloves is a great one. We love playing there. There's also J&J's Pizza, which is it's like a basement show, so it's real
Mhm.
intimate, but it's actually a lot of fun to play there. And then down in Dallas, there's Wits End and Reno's are kind of the two main spots that we'll do. A little bit on the northern side is one of the bigger venues is Gas Monkey. That's a great place to play, and we've had the fortune to play there like four times, I think. But that's a that's a really nice like professional uh, type stage to play on. And then in Fort Worth, our home away from home would be Tomcats West, and then there's other venues across the state that will reliably go and play and stuff like that. Like we love playing like Dirty Dog in Austin as well as Texas Mist. Um, Down in San Antonio, there's Bonds on the Riverwalk and also Zombies on the north side. Houston, we just played BFE and Fitzgerald's, and there's the White Swan. That's a good venue, and I mean it's hot as fuck, but it's a fun place to play. But we also try to get out and play a bunch of new places and just kind of go wherever we can.
I got you. Well, yeah, and I think some of my most favorite shows watching you guys are either in the Denton area at J&J's, or I think that the show at the Robert Gloves was excellent.
Yeah,
And then the Wits In with you guys in Coast. And of course the shows at Sessions were the one show at Sessions was excellent with you guys, Diesel Beast, and that Oberon band.
right.
Yeah, and no, Oberon's great. I think that night was
I
probably.
s-
Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say I still have the poster for that night up in our jam room here.
Oh yeah, well, and DJ Bryant. I know we were going to talk about him, but he
That
just
that
VO'd me
bastard.
some money. He just sent me some money on Cash App, so now I got to talk about him. But
Okay. Okay.
um, yeah, right. Uh, the DJ was he designed that poster in homage to Evil Dead, and which
Yeah.
I thought was excellent. And that show was for me. I think that was one of my most favorite show, including all three bands. With you guys over on the Diesel Beast. And shout outs to Carrick and all those guys. But one thing that I loved is that just from the time Diesel Beast started to the time Oberon ended, it was excellent, and it was very much like a party. It wasn't even really it wasn't even a show. It was just a big hangout, and I feel
Yeah.
like whether it's you guys, Diesel Beast, you guys in Oberon, you guys in Kimmelcast, whatever, I think that you guys do a fantastic job of bringing that element out because it's always a good time. And
Yeah. Shout out to
Monogama as
Randall.
well. Yeah, shout out to Randall Day. But can you kind of talk about some more of your favorite shows just over the years. What are some shows that pop up in mind?
I mean, any of the shows where we can play with, our friends' bands is always a good time, like you said. So anytime we
Hmm.
get to play with Oberon is awesome. Anytime we get to play with Diesel Beast is awesome. Anytime we get to play with Monogamizer or Chemicost or Electric Vengeance or our friends in Houston KTCM or our friends from San Antonio, uh, uh, fucking like Three Eye Raven, or I mean, really a whole bunch of bands, and I always kind of draw a blank when I get put on the spot. But anytime you're playing with really cool people, it's going to be a good time. And obviously, also shows bigger shows, bigger attendance and stuff like that. Those are always super fun, to play in front of a bunch of people and have a crazy crowd. But also sometimes it's really fun to play an intimate show where there's 50 people there, but they're in a smaller space and everybody's having a blast. So I mean, we always try to have a real good time just wherever we go, wherever we're playing. But it always makes it sweeter if you know some of the other people that are there playing. It just makes it a little more entertaining.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And kind of speaking of Diesel Beast and Carrick, you and him host a podcast, Warlord Radio podcast on the
Indeed, and
YouTube.
we've had you on it. We've had you on it a few times.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I
so
don't.
we do
I
Warlord Radio,
Mhm.
and just because of the pandemic that's going around now, it's kind of on hiatus, just because we're not able to really interview people at the moment. But we just try to talk to people from a wide range of backgrounds, like musicians, artists, photographers, poets, actors, filmmakers, just pretty much anybody doing something kind of weird and interesting, we're down to talk to.
Oh yeah, well, and I still don't know why you've had me on so many times. I think it must be all that money I'm sending you guys.
It is. Well, it's because you send us the Cash App. Is you and Randall is you keep sending us money, so we keep having you on the show.
Yeah, right. No, no, I always appreciate it. It's always a great time over there. This kind of for those of you that are listening to this, immediately pause this right now. We'll finish the interview and then go and check out Warlord Radio podcast over there on the YouTube. And you guys actually partnered up with Harry Rock Radio. Was that right?
Yeah. So Harry Rock Radio is an internet radio station, and the guy that runs it, his name is Sasquatch, or Kevin Hinkle, and he had heard one of our interviews with a band called Sonar Lights, and he is friends with Sonar Lights, and so he heard the interview, and he actually kind of liked the way that Carrick and I handled it, and he checked out some of the other ones, and so he said he wanted to work with us. So he plays this on his radio show, which is every Sunday night from 7 to 11 is when he plays Warlord Radio. And so he advertises us through his site and through his YouTube page, and then we've got our own YouTube page and stuff like that. And then that's we just run it all out of YouTube basically. So we'll post the YouTube links on all the social media and stuff like that, and you can just go there and stream. It's an audio only format. We don't do like video or anything like that. We just do audio, and we've got like 46 episodes so far. And once all of this stuff settles down, we'll get back at it.
Oh hell yeah! Well, and I think uh, one thing that I appreciate about it is it's always interesting. It's never kind of like what you had said. There's always a plethora of different guests out there, and of course, having you guys have had me on, you've had Randall on. I think that you've had Paul Bones on. Your
Yep.
was that the Bigfoot hunter?
No, Paul Bones was actually a professor, and the guy that's a cryptozoologist, his name is Quartz Griner, and he's also a photographer that has taken pictures of both of our
Mhm.
bands, and that's ostensibly why we had him on the show. But then he started to talk about how he's way into cryptozoology and Bigfoot and stuff like that. And so we had him on a couple of times, and then we actually went on like a Bigfoot hunt one night out at Lake Ray Roberts, where we spent the night in the middle of December out. We're like traipsing out through the woods and stuff like that. So yeah, we try to do all kinds of different weird shit, and
Mhm.
just stuff that we think is interesting. We figure that well maybe some other people will too.
Right. And uh, how was it that you met Carrick? Was it through kind of the because can you kind of take us through how you met Carrick, and then initially how what was the idea behind starting Warlord Radio podcast?
So we met Carrick when STD and Diesel Beast played a show together at Andy's bar in Denton. So Diesel Beast is a Denton-based band. We're a little bit more like Dallas-based, but we play in Denton a lot. And we played, I believe it was either their second or third show, and it was at Andy's. And it was just one of those things where we immediately dug their set, and we went up to talk to them after they were done. They played before us on that particular night, and they were really cool. Obviously, all the guys in the band are badass, and just struck up a friendship from there. And then from there, we immediately played a bunch of shows together. So, I mean, I don't know how many shows we've played together, I don't know, like 15 or something like that. But we've played a bunch of shows together and always have a blast when we do. And the idea for the podcast is totally Carrick's. Well, it was him and Jason, their guitar player. It was their idea. They asked me if I wanted to like come in and basically be like a co-host, and I was like, sure. And so we just started going from there. And then Jason had to step down just because he's so busy. He's a professional sound man, so he does sound for like the State Fair of Texas and a whole bunch of touring acts and all this kind of stuff. So he's in high demand. So he just didn't have the time to do it anymore. So he stepped down. So I kind of took over some of his responsibilities, and now it's me and Carrick that do everything.
Right. And which and you guys typically do that out of your house.
Yeah, yeah. So
And
we just we do it in my living room basically. Is we'll just bring people in, one or two people, and just have a couple hour long conversation with them about whatever. It's not we're not
mhm.
really on a format or anything like that. I mean, we'll ask them about whatever it is that they're doing, if it's a record or a book or an acting gig or whatever. We'll ask about that, but we try to get more into like what do they like, what are they listening to, what are the specifics of what do they do, like if they're in a band, like where do they practice, all that kind of behind the scenes type of stuff.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Well, and that's one element that I love everything about it, but that's one thing that I could appreciate is the kind of behind the scenes, but you're not doing it in a hey, here's question A, here's question B, here's question C kind of way. It's very, it's not linear. It flows very organically, and
Yeah,
yeah, and it's a very, I don't know. It just seems like it didn't really seem like you're recording a podcast. It just seems like you're kind of, hanging out. Is that kind of the element that you try to create?
yeah, yeah. That was really entirely it. It's like because we've had people be like, well, will you give me the questions that you're going to ask? And it's like, well, we don't. That's not really how it goes. It's just more of like we're just trying to like hear more of the like opinions and point of view of the person that we're talking to. So it's like when we had you on, it's like we wanted to know all about your podcast, but obviously with you and Carrick loving wrestling is like some of that's going to go into topics on wrestling and stuff like that, and you guys kind of educating me on a bunch of stuff. And we'll
Right.
also be asking like, well, what are you listening to, or like the comedy shows that you were doing, wanting to hear about those
Mhm.
experiences, about those. So it's not like a set of, like you said, it's not like, oh, well, here's question number 1 and 2. It's just more of like letting it unfold and, seeing what you want to talk about. And sometimes we've had episodes where the whole thing is basically a side trip that was accidental, where we start talking about conspiracies or whatever, and we didn't mean to, but that's just where it goes. And I
Right.
don't know. I just think I think that stuff is a little more interesting, because I've done a lot of interviews and stuff for the band, and I always appreciate it when people ask and stuff, but um, you know people asking like, oh, okay, well, what's next for you guys, and what's your next show? It's like, that's good, you want to plug it, but that's kind of the least interesting part of an artist. Like, I'd really
Mhm.
rather know more about like what makes them tick, or like the process of what they do. That type of thing is, I think, more interesting.
Oh, for sure. And the kind of the human element of it,
Yeah,
which kind of uh, great segue, by the way. But
there you go.
transitioning from there, you and I also share something in common, and that's kind of a love for horror, or not kind of, but a love for horror movies. Um, and I think that we both share the same favorite horror movie, in that American Werewolf in London. Um, what was and I think we had talked about it, but you had said one of your first early memories of watching horror movies was with your sister, and she had her friends over, and then they watched, I think, Jason, maybe one of the
Yeah,
Friday 13th,
it
and
was
then
one of the Friday the 13th. I'm not sure. It was definitely one of the early ones. It was either like, it would have been either 1 or 2. I can't remember because I wasn't watching. But yeah, so I was a young kid, and I had an older sister, and mom and dad were gone, and I got shoved into the closet because I wasn't allowed to watch the scary movie while the older girls were watching the scary movie. So I'm like trying to like peek through like the slats of the closet, and I'm like listening, and I'm like totally like, I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? But they're like screaming and terrified, and they're so scared that they call me out to turn off the TV because they were too scared. Uh, so
right.
yeah, that was an early vivid memory, and I remember like I was trying to like see what was going on screen as I walk out. I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? Because I'm imagining like body parts everywhere and stuff like that. But like,
Yeah.
I didn't see anything. They're just yelling at me to turn it off. So uh, yeah, that's not like the first memory I have of it, but that's a strong memory of being young, and always being fascinated by a lot of things that kids are fascinated by, like monsters and dinosaurs and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's like I never stopped liking that stuff,
Uh-huh.
and I've loved horror forever. For me, it's like horror and metal. It's like I've loved both of those like my entire life.
Mhm. Well, and other than like an American Werewolf in London, what are some of your other favorite horror movies?
It's always a tough one. They're reliably like a top group, and I can't say, oh, this is the one, this is number one and this is number two. I can't organize it that way, other than there's like a top tier of ones that, for me, were not only super memorable when I saw them, back in the day, but I can watch them over and over again and still see really great things. So obviously, like Werewolf in London, that's one of the great werewolf movies of all time. I love everything about it.
Oh, I do too.
Another one would be George Romero's, his entire Living Dead trilogy, but specifically Dawn of the Dead is my favorite of that trilogy. I just rewatched it the other night. Everything about it is great. I love it. The original Toby Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just so unique and bizarre and wonderful in so many ways. Um, John Carpenter, Halloween, obviously, but for me, more so The Thing. I
Hmm.
think The Thing is
Oh yeah.
just flat out one of the greatest movies ever made. Dario Argento's Suspiria was really mind blowing. the first few times that I saw it. And same thing with David Cronenberg's Videodrome. Um, uh, it's aged. It's like it deals with like videotapes and stuff like that, but still just the feel of it, and story wise, just the disjointed reality of the new flesh and all that kind of stuff is just fantastic. There's a few others, but those would be some of the absolute all time favorites of mine.
No Troll 2, huh?
Yeah. Well, no, I got some love for Troll and Troll 2, but I wouldn't put him in I wouldn't put him in the top tier. It's like
No,
those are more something fun to put on at the end of the night, after a show or after you've had a few drinks. That's the kind
right.
of thing that's fun to unwind to.
No, for sure. Like I think the second time I seen Troll 2 was with you. The first time I think was when I was I can't remember, a kid. So it's okay. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? It's yeah, it's but I think some of my favorite ones are definitely American Werewolf in London, The Fly. I
yeah,
think
that's up there.
definitely oh, yeah, definitely um, the first Toby Hooper, not the first, but the Toby Hooper Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then I think Late Phases was another good werewolf
Yeah,
movie
yeah, yeah.
that came out a few years ago. And then I think oh hell,
I
um,
know
you know,
it's hard to be put on the spot.
yeah, well, and the Tim Curry It series, the mini series,
Yep.
always has my heart. My It was funny because I have a similar story to the one that you spoke about. Is that when we were at my grandparents' house down in Carnegie, uh, my sister and some of my cousins were watching the Tim Curry Pennywise or Tim Curry It, and my sister sat in front of the door and wouldn't let me leave. And then so I was confined in there. So I had to watch this movie, and even though I was terrified, but later on, I've had a deeper appreciation for it. The remake, it was good. I mean, I thought the part one was one of the best horror movies that I've seen in a long time. That really captured my attention, and I thought it was great. The second one's
Yeah,
good. Not, but I think it's hard to follow up a movie like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And unless it's, of course, unless it's part of the classics, like with the George Romero or, so on and so forth. I think another one of mine is fuck. I just had it. Oh, I think it'll come to me in a second. But is Jason Takes Manhattan. I
oh,
think
okay.
that
That's an
yeah.
unusual pick for the Friday series. Um, I, I I I I think it's one of the lesser ones, but it's still entertaining. But so why that one in particular?
Well, I think just the ridiculousness of it,
Yeah,
and that it's
fair enough.
a good portion of it's a good portion of it's filmed on like a ferry, and then there's a boat, and then he finally goes into the city, and then he kicks over the boom box with those kids, and then scares them off with his mask. But
Well,
I think the crown point of that movie is when he's fighting the guy on the rooftop, and the guy's really throwing combinations, and he's doing the whole bit, and then Jason just swipes his head off, goes flying. So
I always liked how they take a huge ass boat from Camp Crystal Lake to New York City. Like, how is Camp Crystal Lake attached to the ocean? That's what I want to know. Yeah.
no, that's definitely a good question. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it, but and um, I think for me, or like The Strangers, the first
Oh
one
yeah,
was
yeah,
excellent. I thought
yeah.
the second one was okay. It got kind of hokey there at the end, but another one is The Strangers, and then um, was a movie called The Farm, which it's not one of my favorites, but I liked the idea of it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It was a very interesting idea, but it just kind of failed in execution.
I
Um,
don't think
I
I've
think
seen
you
The Farm.
okay. It's kind of I don't know
Do you know when it
what's
came out?
company. Probably 2 3 years ago.
Oh, okay, so fairly recent. Okay.
Yeah. I think that the Tripper. I don't know if you've seen that movie with the killer
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, yeah.
That
That
one,
was
yeah,
entertaining.
yeah, that one's good. I think just for the kind of sheer shittiness of it. So
Hmm.
it's good for a whole lot of other reasons. But other than horror, what other movies and music are you into? Other than metal and other than horror?
Yeah. Well, okay. So for movies, um, uh, I like a lot of different types of movies, but the movies that I like across the board have some element of darkness to them. So,
Okay.
I've loved horror forever, but that's certainly not the only thing I like. It's like one of my favorite all-time movies is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Okay.
Or something like a western, like the Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch, or Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, or the Man with No Name trilogy. Like,
Mhm.
it's like those are great. Any of Sergio Leone's movies are incredible. Once Upon a Time in America, that type of stuff. Uh, Also, like Fantasia, you know, the Disney animation combined with classical music. I mean, I love classical music, so that's a segue into to music and stuff. But I love listening to classical music and soundtracks and stuff like that. Um, I love, and then also like punk and metal and heavy stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've got a pretty wide um, taste for just storytelling in general. Like books as well. I love to read. Um, the things that typically aren't for me is just more of kind of like the mainstream vibe. Like I don't dig on romantic comedies. I'm not big on the Marvel movies. You know, most bestsellers aren't interesting to me. Some are. I don't hate on something just because it's popular, but it's typically most of the popular stuff kind of has a mainstream sensibility of, well, the good guy always wins and the guy always gets the girl and everything always works out in the end. And I like more subversive stuff than that. It's like I appreciate it when something has a unique point of view. So
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be super like horror dark or whatever, but it just has to be kind of unusual and offbeat and have a unique perspective on it. So I can enjoy something like the movie Cube, which is like a sci-fi type of mystery thriller. A newer one that I thought was really good was called Upgrade. I don't know if you've seen Upgrade, but it's kind of like a sci-fi kind of an action movie.
Mm.
I thought that was really good. But then I also like stuff like you know um, The Color Out of Space with Nick Cage, or Mandy, and things like that.
Okay. Okay. Well, have you seen No Country for Old Men?
Oh yeah, yeah, love it. And I'm a big fan of the Coen brothers.
Oh,
But No
very.
Country for Old Men is fantastic, and recently rewatched the Big Lebowski as well. I also really like their very first movie called Blood Simple. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that's a great one. But I mean,
It,
those guys are great. Pretty much anything they do is going to be totally worth watching several times.
oh, absolutely. And The Big Lebowski, for me, is one of my favorite movies. It's definitely
Yeah,
a movie that I can rewatch, and I absolutely love the dialogue in it, and the fact that it was written that way is even more impressive. All
yeah,
the little pauses and cues and how they interrupt each other, I think is,
yeah.
um, yeah, no, it's excellent. And No Country is actually my second favorite film by them. Um,
There you go.
the Big Lebowski being first,
And
yeah, but
another one that I watched just last night was Mad Max Fury Road. That would have to be, I think, probably the most impressive action movie I've seen come out in probably like 20 years or so.
Well, you're a fan of the Mel Gibson Mad Max?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love the
Mhm.
whole series. I think that the guy that has directed them, George Miller, he's like a super genius. He has done some of the absolute. Well, I think going back, the original Mad Max is great, especially for it being this like super low budget Australian made action movie that's still totally worthwhile. Uh, the one that really blew my mind when I was younger was The Road Warrior. I think The Road Warrior is probably one of the top one or two action movies out of the entire 80s. I mean, I think you can make a case for maybe either that or Terminator 1. Um, uh, Thunderdome is not quite as good, mainly just because of the kids subplot there in the middle. But the beginning and end of that movie are greatness. And then Fury Road is just mind-blowingly good. I mean, the fact that they actually did those stunts, and the fact that this dude that's like in his early 70s just directed the most balls out action movie in a long ass time, I thought was just very exhilarating.
Oh hell yeah! Well, and yeah, well we'll leave it there because my computer's dying. So,
Okay, killed it.
but
Yes.
yeah, there you go. Hell yeah. No, but kind of ending here. Where can people find you, and where can people find your band?
Sure. So basically, just look up if you do a Google search on Silver Tongue Devil, just type it in as one word. I know that over the years that there've been like other songs and other projects that have come and gone, that have tried to use the name, and they might do like spaces like Silver Space, Tongue Space, Devil Space, or whatever. We've just always spelled it as one run-on word, so just Silver Tongue Devil. Our Facebook, our Bandcamp, our Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Uh, we just use Silver Tongue Devil 666. That's a real easy way to find us anywhere. We're on every conceivable streaming platform or download area that you want to listen to music, whether that's Google Play or Apple Music or Spotify or whatever. We're all across the interweb, and yeah, so that's the easy way to find us. And then you can also find Warlord Radio. Like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and we've got all of our episodes up there.
Hell yeah, absolutely. And check out the ones with me on them first, and then
That's
Randall,
right.
and then
i'll
the rest of them,
i'll
I guess.
I'll post those up, and then I'll hide the one with I'll hide the one with DJ, because no one wants to see that.
Yeah, right. No, but we love you, DJ. Yes,
Yes.
maybe. But all right. And you can find this podcast, the Needless Potato Podcast, everywhere on the Facebook, on the Instagram. No Twitter, just because I don't have time for that. But you can also search the Needless Potato Podcast on Breaker, on Stitcher, on Spotify, on YouTube, on Podcast Addict, everywhere but Apple Podcasts, just because they never answer my emails. So, screw you, Apple. But anyways, hey, whatever you do like, direct all your questions to Craig Meinhart, and
Yes.
whatever you don't like, direct all your questions to Logan Kyle Wood over there on the Facebook,
There you go.
and voice your disdain. But I appreciate all of you for listening. Shout outs to everyone that's kind of going through quarantine. Shout outs to all you essential workers. Appreciate all of you. And very special shout outs to the main man, Craig Meinhardt, for joining me on this Wednesday night.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, brother. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, always. But all right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and end it here. You guys are great. You guys are awesome. Thanks you so much for your support. And if you want to give us any of that stimulus package, you can go to anchor.com/Jesse White Deer and hit that support tab. Or you can order some merch from Silver Tongue Devil.
Satan.
Yeah. So, Hell Satan on both of those. But all right.
Thanks, Craig, for joining me. You're awesome as well. Love you, brother, and we'll end it here. See you, Spuds.
Thanks, brother. Take care, man.
You too.
If I can take the world of heaven, only hell, reigning with the rebel angels in this prison cell. Intelligence us at the altar, sacrifice to prayer, strapped into intolerance, deep in the faithful's lair. See the devils in my eyes, and clearly no mistake. Your prayers are what I feed upon, my will never break. Damn my soul that you want, I still come back for more. To that figure, damn Messiah, running on the floor. My hands are bound, my sound is blue, the fire is getting hot. My muscles break as my bones, my game is only spot. When you burn me, when you kill me, you mind what they sell. I got a message from below, you must have talked to know. You must have talked to know.